Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. Let's see what happens. Yesterday, I was apparently mass reported by a bunch of bots or jihadis or I don't know who on YouTube. I was mass reported for the fake community violation of streaming as a minor. And so that immediately took my YouTube video, like live stream, down. It was still live streaming on X, but YouTube was where it was taken down, and I got a notification. And then because of the because of the complaint that they used, the fake complaint, I guess YouTube thought I was a minor under the age of 13, and I wasn't allowed to go back on and continue live streaming. So I appealed it, and here I am. I'm back. So let's see what happens today. I'm going to continue with the topic because it's wild. It's wild that these jihadis do not want you to know the truth about what's happening in the Middle East, whether it relates to the Islamic Republic occupying Iran, which is my birth country, or whether it's the Islamic terrorists, in Gaza, right? And Hamas is the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization that is banned in Saudi Arabia and the UAE and other places. So anyways, we're going to get started. And I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update before we dig into why Hamas is murdering people in Gaza. So, as you see, President Trump tweeted out yesterday, if Hamas continues to kill people in Gaza, which was not the deal, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them. Thank you for your attention to this matter. As you guys know, when President Trump adds thank you for your attention to this matter at the end of a post, he's definitely not joking around. So something is definitely in the works here. And, with the very horrific images and footage that we are seeing coming out of Gaza, I mean, no one's speaking about that. Where are all of the free Palestine, pro-Palestine people? Where are they now? They spent 2 years defending Hamas terrorists, and now those exact Hamas terrorists are murdering, innocent people in Gaza. And I mean, the footage is all over. There's actually this really, really good account on X. It's called Center for Peace Communications. So if you guys don't follow them, where's my American flag? Buddy, I'm not American. Like, I don't, like, why would I have an American flag? I'm not American. Anyways, that's actually the flag of pre-revolutionary Iran. So that's the flag of Iran before it was occupied by Islamic terrorists. And in fact, Iran was a huge ally of Americans. So there you go. Iran and the United States were allies prior to 1979. So the reason that I show this flag is because that is the real flag of Iran. Anyways, so I'm going to be a little bit more strict with the comments because I'm just not going to tolerate any spam or idiocy. Anyway, so going back to this, so here's a video from Center for Peace Communications, and they are trying to raise awareness about the violence happening in Gaza right now. This is the stuff that you don't really hear about. This is the stuff that you don't really see about either. Am I having some issues with my internet connection here? Let me see. No, it seems to be okay. All right, so we're going to watch this video. They sent it to me because they wanted me to show it. So here we go. This is what you're not going to see in the media. This is what you're not going to see the pro-Hamas people talk about, right? This is the truth about what's happening in Gaza right now. And this is why President Trump is speaking out. And, of course, part of the 20-point peace plan in the Middle East was for Hamas to disarm. They have not disarmed yet. Instead, they are escalating the violence and they're continuing to murder people in Gaza. So here's this. So Center for Peace Communications said yesterday Hamas executed a 5-year-old child claiming he was a spy. When will the world act and pressure Hamas to comply with Trump's ceasefire plan? A brave Gazan civilian bears witness to Hamas atrocities. So these are people in Gaza who are trying to raise awareness about how Hamas is murdering them and how and why Hamas are the enemies. And yet you never hear about these people in the mainstream media. You never hear the, pro-Hamas demonstrations speak about these people. And there's a reason that they have to obfuscate their identities. There's a reason that they have to keep their identities hidden, because the very act of speaking out against Hamas can put your life at risk. And I will share some videos with you. These are videos that are recent and they're circulating of Hamas just murdering Gazans who speak out against them and say they want peace. So here you go.
كل من تحدث خلال هذه الحرب عن الأخطاء الكارثية التي قامت بها حركة حماس بمغامرتها في هذه الحرب التي استمرت عامين، وكل من خالفها رأي أصبح الآن خائف ويشعر بالحذر الشديد من قبل ميليشيات حماس، لأن هذه الميليشيا الآن كل من خالفها رأي تقوم بسحله وبقتله
So this is important. So he's basically saying,
ويشعر بالحذر الشديد من قبل ميليشيات حماس، لأن هذه.
He's saying, so these Hamas militias drag anyone who dissented through the streets, right? So anyone who speaks out against Hamas, anyone who says we don't want terrorism, we just want peace. Anyone who goes against Hamas is being dragged through the streets and they're being murdered execution style.
الميليشيا الآن كل من خالفها رأي تقوم بسحله وبقتله وبالترهيب أيضا وبالاعتقال في مشهد يبعث على عقلية دموية متعاطفة.
Right, so even the Gazans are saying like this mentality of Hamas, it's a bloodthirsty mentality. It's this like jihadi mentality that has infiltrated their society, and those who speak out against it, those who don't want to be a part of that, are murdered.
عطشة لسفك الدم. كل من خالفهم رأي يتوعدونه بمصير مثل مصير عائلة دغمش، والتهمة جاهزة أنهم خونة وجواسيس ومتعاملين مع الاحتلال وسارقين للمساعدات، والكثير من التهم الجاهزة لديهم. أيضا ما حصل مع عائلة أبو عجوة وبالتحديد مع السيدة ألفت أبو عجوة.
So here they're saying that they're fabricating lies, right? So they're basically making up false allegations against Palestinians who speak out against Hamas in order to murder them. And he's giving specific names here, right?
من التهم الجاهزة.
And this is important, like they're going after various tribes, right? Because there's tribes, there's clans, there's families, and Hamas is going after any tribe or any clan that is speaking out against Hamas.
لديهم. أيضا ما حصل مع عائلة أبو عجوة وبالتحديد مع السيدة ألفت أبو عجوة الذي زوجها يعمل ضابط في مخابرات السلطة الوطنية الفلسطينية. قامت حماس بقتلها هي وأطفالها بالأمس بسبب أنهم يتعاملون.
So this Palestinian woman who was speaking out against Hamas was murdered by Hamas and her children were murdered as well. Where are the demonstrations for her? Where are the protests? Where are the Free Palestine people All these people who for 2 years claimed that Palestinian lives matter. Well, where are you now when Palestinians are being murdered by Hamas? Why are you not speaking out now? And this just goes to show that, these last 2 years of all of these like pro-Palestine demonstrations were actually pro-jihad demonstrations, and it was more about exterminating Israel and murdering Jews, and having an excuse to display your blatant anti-Semitism, than it was about Palestinian lives, because all these people are quiet now. Like, where is the outrage? Where is the where are the demonstrations? And all those politicians, it's including Mark Carney. You were very quick to go after Israel. Where are you now when Hamas is murdering Palestinian civilians? I mean, why the double standard here, right? Why the double standard? So again, let's finish watching this video, and then we're going to go on to what President Trump had to say a few days ago, which ties into the post he put out yesterday.
مع الاحتلال وأنهم جواسيس. ما ذنب طفل بالخامسة والسادسة من عمره؟ كيف له أن يتعامل مع مخابرات إسرائيلية ويجهزون لهم تهمة؟ حماس منذ أن قامت بالحكم على غزة هي قامت بانقلاب دموي سقط على إثره أكثر من 600 قتيل فلسطيني في أحداث مؤسفة للغاية. ومسلسل القمع والقتل الحمساوي هو مسلسل ليس وليد اللحظة، بل وليد 18 عاما من القمع والقتل والإرهاب، وكله باسم المقاومة. هذا السلاح هم لا يحتفظون به. ليس.
So guys, pay attention to this part. So he's saying it's been 18 years of war and oppression in the name of resistance, right? But then he goes on to say that Hamas is hoarding these weapons, not necessarily to use the weapons against Israel, but to use it against Palestinians who speak out against Hamas terrorists.
اسم المقاومة. هذا السلاح هم لا يحتفظون به ليس لمواجهة الجيش الإسرائيلي وليس لمواجهة القوات الإسرائيلية التي على بعد أمتار بسيطة داخل قطاع غزة. هذا السلاح يريدون الاحتفاظ به.
See, they want to keep these weapons to confront the unarmed Palestinian people. This is how Islamic terrorists operate, and this is the exact same thing that the Islamic Republic in Iran is doing to the Iranian people, right? Iranian people are unarmed. And, a lot of people say, well, if Iranians hate the Islamic Republic, why don't you overthrow them? Iranian people have tried to. They've tried for 47 years. And every single time that they have risen up, they have been brutally murdered, because the Islamic Republic has a monopoly on all of the weapons, right? Like, there's no Second Amendment in Iran. People do not have the right to bear arms. Only those who are affiliated with the Islamic Republic do. And one of the other things that the Islamic Republic does is, when things heat up in Iran, they will bring in their proxy militias, right? Like, they'll bring in Hezbollah, they'll bring in Hamas, they'll bring in the Houthis, the Hashtashabis, right? They will bring in other Islamic terrorist proxy groups that they train and fund to come in to murder Iranians. And so this tactic that this man in Gaza is talking about how they use, Hamas uses weapons to confront unarmed Palestinian people. That's the exact same tactic that is used by Islamic terrorists in the Middle East against those populations they are oppressing. And I actually have a video of Hamas doing exactly that, which I will share after this speech, because I always like to come with the receipts, so I always have the facts with me.
السلاح يريدون الاحتفاظ به لمواجهة الشعب الفلسطيني الأعزل ولمواجهة كل من يخالفهم آرائهم. وأعتقد أنهم سيناورون وسيلعبون وسيحاولون أن يتحايلوا في بند تنفيذ وقف إطلاق النار. وأصلا هذه المحاولات بدأت من اليوم.
So here he's basically saying that Hamas is already starting to circumvent the clause on implementing the ceasefire. He's referring to the fact that Hamas must disarm. And again, that ties into what President Trump said yesterday.
تنفيذ وقف إطلاق النار. وأصلا هذه المحاولات بدأت من اليوم. أنا أتوقع أن حماس ستدخل في باب الملاعبة والمغامرة على أمد الإطالة في حكمهم وبقائهم والهروب من الاستحقاق الشعبي الذي يطالبهم بالتنازل.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention something really quickly. So John is saying, speak about how Muslims are killing Christians in Nigeria. 100%. That was actually going to be my topic for today, but then my live stream was taken down yesterday, so I wasn't able to speak about the Christian. I wasn't able to finish my live stream from yesterday, but I do plan on speaking about the Christian genocide in Nigeria. It is a very important topic, and not a lot of attention is being given to that. So 100% it is on my radar, but I do want to finish speaking about this first, and then we'll definitely get into that in a future episode.
عن المشهد ويطالبهم بالتنحي عن الحكم. هذا الامر يتمثل الان من خلال المناورات السياسيه والميدانيه التي تقوم بها حماس، من خلال المماطله في تسليم الجثامين، من خلال عدم بدء المناقشه الفعليه لتسليم السلاح. مشاهد الاعدامات الميدانيه اثارت حاله من الرعب الكبير في صفوف المدنيين الفلسطينيين في غزه، وبات الكل يشعر بالخوف، وبات الكل يشعر بأنه مهدد من قبل ميليشيا. 2 مليون مواطن فلسطيني في قطاع غزة يشعر بالخوف. متى؟ السؤال هنا متى سيتحرك المجتمع الدولي؟ متى سيقوم بالضغط على حماس والالتزام
That's a good point. So here is this Gazan civilian in Gaza who is afraid of Hamas. He's speaking out against Hamas, and he's basically saying, when will the international community pressure Hamas to comply with the Trump ceasefire plan, right? So all those world leaders who were standing pretty on the stage when President Trump was announcing his peace treaty, and President Trump rightfully called them all out and made fun of the as I like to call them, Dumb and Dumber, Keir Starmer and Mark Carney, who are completely useless, and they're they basically cater to the jihadi votes in their respective countries, and President Trump called them out. But here's the thing, where are all of these leaders now? They were so quick to want to be part of the peace in the Middle East photo op, right? They all wanted to be there and stand pretty as if they had something to do with it. But now when push comes to shove and Hamas is refusing to disarm, and Hamas is refusing to go along with the Trump ceasefire plan, these world leaders are silent. They're not saying anything. The hypocrisy is unreal.
ما نص بخطط ترامب لوقف اطلاق النار. كل من يخالف حماس الرأي سيكون مصيره الاعتقال.
Anyone who opposes Hamas will face arrest, death, the mutilation of their corpse. We've seen the videos, guys. We've seen the videos. We've seen the footage out there. This is exactly what Hamas does to innocent Gazan civilians. And this man from Gaza is speaking out, and he has to literally hide his identity to preserve his life, to preserve his safety.
أو القتل والتنكيل بجثته واتهامهم بالعمالة وبالخيانة الوطنية.
Okay, so that's the end of that video. And here is a recent image of Hamas terrorists, and look at what they're doing to these innocent Gazan civilians. No one is speaking out about this, right? No one's speaking out about this violence that's going on, except for President Trump, and of course, Mosab Hassan Yousef, and I will get to him in a moment. But here's President Trump from 2 days ago, right? So 3 days ago, sorry. So this was President Trump on October 14, and here's what he had to say about Hamas.
We have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes. You say
because
quickly.
Everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm, or we will disarm them. Got it? Okay.
What is
next.
the deadline you're going to put on that? You say quickly, sir. Sir, you said quickly, but what is the deadline you're going to put on
A
that before you
reasonable
take
period of
action?
time, pretty quickly.
Mr.
A
President.
reasonable period of time.
Congratulations.
We have,
So that's what President Trump said 3 days ago. And then yesterday, like I showed you already, President Trump posted that if Hamas continues to kill people in Gaza, which was not the deal, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So one thing I've noticed about President Trump is that anytime he ends a statement with "thank you for your attention to this matter," that means that something is brewing. And I have a feeling that we are going to see something happen sooner rather than later. And I hope it's sooner rather than later, because the images and videos that we are seeing coming out of Gaza right now are truly, truly horrific. I mean, here's a video from, like, this was just posted on the internet just a few hours ago, and it shows Hamas pointing guns at Gazan civilians. So here. It's frightening, right? It's frightening, but where are the cameras? Where are the cameras? Where is the media? Where is the news? How come people aren't raising awareness about what Gazans are going through right now? Right? It's incredibly sad that this is happening right now. So that video has been making the rounds, but I wanted to speak about, or I wanted to play some video clips for you from the son of Hamas, Mosab Hassan Yousef. And so he is the son of one of the founders of Hamas, right? Hamas are the Islamic terrorists. And he grew up within Hamas and was a part of that ideology until he was able to escape and de-radicalize himself. So he has been very outspoken about Islamic terrorism, especially when it comes to Hamas. He has been very outspoken about wanting to save Palestinian lives and save the lives of children in Gaza. And he does not mince words. He does not hold back. He is very blunt, very direct, and he exposes the lies and he shares the truth. And that makes a lot of the jihadis very, very uncomfortable, right? So I'm going to play some clips by him, because if anyone can explain what's happening in Gaza, it is him, right? He can explain it better than anyone else. So here we go, guys. I'm going to share his videos with you.
Majority of people lack purpose. They want a cause, and without a cause, they don't exist.
You say that they're looked at by Hamas and the Palestinians as useful idiots. What do you mean by that?
I spent lots of time in Hamas prisons with other Hamas leaders and Hamas members from different districts. Then, most importantly, I worked with the Israeli intelligence, and I had the honor to be a part of the counterterrorism unit. And I was born there and part of that culture, part of that religion. And I barely understood this monster. That's why I described it as black hole. Then some people hear about Hamas, or they see an avatar of a Hamas fighter carrying a rifle, a freedom fighter, and they think it's a fancy idea, you know, to support such a monster. This is why I call them idiots, absolutely idiots, because they don't know what they are supporting. They are supporting a monster that has been hijacking an entire society and endangering the entire Middle East, pushing the world towards a global war. Instead of condemning such a monster that they just committed ethnic cleansing against innocent people, then kidnapped hundreds of hostages, then used their own people as human shields. And none of those pro-Palestine people condemned Hamas up to this day.
Not only that, not only have they not condemned, because this interview, I think, is from last year, right? So not only have they not condemned them in the past, even today, where we are seeing videos and images, horrifying videos and images of Hamas murdering innocent Palestinians, those people are still not speaking up. They're still not speaking out, right? Because they are so trapped into this jihadi ideology that they don't care about innocent lives. All they care about is attacking Israel. And that's where the difference comes in between, like this jihadi ideology versus someone who actually wants peace in the region.
How long would it take them to realize that this is not only enemy of Israel, it's enemy of civilization? So when I see protesters on campuses like Harvard, of course I was outraged. I am still outraged. What's happening is insanity. Those pro-Palestine people need to go to a mental asylum.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Those pro-Pali people do need to go to a mental asylum because they have completely lost their moral compass. They have completely lost the ability to understand right from wrong. And he's absolutely right. This jihadi ideology is the enemy of Western civilization. It's the enemy of Western civilization. They are not here to build. They are here to destroy. Let's listen to this again because he doesn't mince words. And it's very important what he's saying. And then I'll go to some of his other clips as well. But I really, really want you guys to pay attention to this, especially now, given the context that even though there is a ceasefire and even though Hamas is supposed to disarm, instead what they're doing is they are murdering innocent people in Gaza.
Majority of people lack purpose. They want a cause. And without a cause, they don't exist.
You say that they're looked at by Hamas and the Palestinians as useful idiots. What do you mean by that?
I spent lots of time in Hamas prisons with other Hamas leaders and Hamas members from different districts. Then, most importantly, I worked with the Israeli intelligence and I had the honor to be a part of the counterterrorism unit. And I was born there and part of that culture, part of that religion. And I barely understood this monster. That's why I described it as black hole. Then some people hear about Hamas or they see an avatar of a Hamas fighter carrying a rifle, a freedom fighter, and they think it's a fancy idea, to support such a monster. This is why I call them idiots, absolutely idiots, because they don't know what they are supporting. They are supporting a monster that has been hijacking an entire society and endangering the entire Middle East, pushing the world towards a global war. Instead of condemning such a monster that they just committed ethnic cleansing against innocent people, then
so when he's referring to ethnic cleansing, he's talking about the October 7 genocidal massacre, right? When Hamas went into Israel and basically ethnically cleansed 1,200 innocent Israelis and genocided them. That's the real genocide here. That's what he's referring to.
Committed ethnic cleansing against innocent people, then kidnapped hundreds of hostages, then used their own people as human shields.
right? So he's basically laying out the Hamas playbook for you. They went in, they murdered Israelis, they ethnically cleansed them, they genocided them, they kidnapped a bunch of Israeli hostages, took them back to Gaza, and then they were using Gazans, innocent Gazans, as human shields, which is exactly what Hamas has been doing for a very long time. And there are literally videos of Hamas leaders out there who have said that we are ready and willing to sacrifice every man, woman, and child, for the resistance. So it's not it's not a secret that Hamas uses innocent people as human shields. They've been doing it for a very, very long time.
And none of those pro-Palestine people condemned Hamas up to this day. How long would it take them to realize that this is not only enemy of Israel, it's enemy of civilization? So when I see protesters on campuses like Harvard, of course I was outraged. I am still outraged. What's happening is insanity. Those pro-Palestine people need to go to a mental asylum.
There we go. So that's what he says in that clip. And then there's another one here. This is from September of 2024, I believe. And he's speaking at a conference, and he talks about this never-ending jihad against Israel. And he really exposes the Islamic terrorists for who they are and why they are continuing in this never-ending jihad. And, guys, if you are appreciating my channel, if you appreciate the truth, make sure that you like and follow and subscribe on YouTube, because I do go live daily at 12 noon, and I basically expose the truth and the facts about the Middle East, and I always come with receipts, guys, which is why it really, really upsets the jihadis. But here we go. Here's another video from Mosab.
From the early beginning of the war and prior to the war, I came to realize that the ideological dimension of this war cannot be ignored. And I got canceled many, many years ago, some 15 years ago, when I started criticizing and questioning the scripture in Islam that encourages Muslims to harm and kill Jewish people. And I think the Jewish people are a very peaceful nation that does not look to harm the Muslims. But at least I think that we have the right, you have the right to question and say, what's going on here? Why the scripture is inciting against the Jewish people, and what the world is doing about it. What other major religions is doing about it. And this is why I changed my strategy, that this is not only about Palestine. Palestine is non-existential. It's just a device that the Muslims use as a weapon against Israel and as a weapon against the Jewish people. Fundamentally, Muslims think that Allah hates the Jewish people. And how can they love the Jewish people if their God that they bow 20 times a day hates the Jewish people? So I am not here to speak against the Muslims, but I want you to be aware of this fundamental problem, at least in your subconscious. You need to have this somewhere, that we have an existential threat. And now you see it in reality, how they were able to just turn the narrative against Israel in no time. And this is why from the beginning of the war, I said, Muslims, you have to back off. This is not acceptable to take the side of a terrorist group that just committed a genocide, a capital crime, unforgivable crime, by the name of resistance and by the name of occupation, colonialism, etc. Not acceptable. And now we have hundreds of millions of Muslims and Arabs spreading propaganda. And as you see, when people see it thousands of times per day, they start believing in it. It becomes real.
You know what? He makes a really good point there. And that's why you see a lot of like the jihadi bots in the chat just spamming with the same message over and over again. Like, these people don't actually have a coherent argument. They don't actually have any facts or logic behind what they're saying. It's just the same, 2 or 3 attack points over and over again. And when you confront them with facts, when you confront them with the truth, they have nothing to say to it. They just go on the offensive. They just attack because they're not able to engage in reasonable, logical conversation, right? They're not able to have that rational, civilized back and forth. They're still, their ideology is still stuck in like that 7th century Sharia law mentality, right? So that's a difference between like Islamic terrorists and, a country like the United Arab Emirates, for example, right? Who are incredibly modernized and they have a peace treaty with Israel, right? So there you go. There's a little difference for you. Anyways, I want to continue. Oh, he's done anyway. All right, so he's done. So there's that. Now, this is a very interesting one. So he's been on Piers Morgan quite a bit, and it's always interesting to see him call out people who are not from the Middle East but think they are experts on the Middle East. And it's very enjoyable to see him calling them out and calling out their hypocrisy and their ignorance on the facts on the Middle East, right? So let's watch this, and we'll enjoy this one together.
To what Abby Martin said.
Well, this is Abi's desperate attempt to discredit me. I am a man of the field. I fought against Hamas as part of legitimate intelligence organization, against savage group that were targeting civilians in suicide bombing attacks, waves of suicide bombing attacks that they killed people indiscriminately. So Abi today want me for some reason to apologize for saving human life because my truth challenges her convenient truth. Abi does not have the authority. She's just a self-appointed low-grade journalist. How can you be a journalist and you call this a genocide, ethnic cleansing? And she just keep repeating ethnic cleansing, genocide, colonialism, etc. None of it is real, including Palestine. It's only in your head. None of it is existential. Palestine was never born. How can you free it? It was never there. It's just a colonial entity, and some people choose to make it into a national identity. And this parrot has been just repeating Hamas propaganda. Marwan Barghouti that she's talking about him, she never met him. I knew Marwan before he got to power. He's a criminal. He killed 5 people. He has blood on his hands. He cheated on his wife. He has a secret son that he never revealed it to the public. Of course, I can criticize him, and I can criticize all the criminals that I know personally.
I love the fact that he calls out the dirty laundry of all of these Islamic terrorists, right? And like Marwan Barghouti or whatever, he's supposedly this like Palestinian hero. The guy's literally a criminal and a terrorist who's murdered people. And the fact that Mosab just calls him out like this, it just gets me every single time. Like I said, this guy, he does not mince words. He does not care about people's feelings. What he cares about is freeing the Palestinian, freeing people in Gaza from Hamas, right? Like he wants people in Gaza to be free and to live peaceful lives away from Islamic terrorism. So that's what he's speaking out against, right? So let's go back and let's watch that again, because I just find it hilarious how he just airs out the dirty laundry of this criminal, which is, a supposed Palestinian hero, but of course he's not, right? But it just goes to show you, like, these are the people that the jihadis idolize. Let's listen to that again.
Propaganda. Marwan Barghouti that she's talking about him, she never met him. I knew Marwan before he got to power. He's a criminal. He killed 5 people. He has blood on his hands. He cheated on his wife. He has a secret son that he never revealed it to the public. Of course, I can criticize him, and I can criticize all the criminals that I know personally. She's been there only for a visit, and maybe she had some falafel sandwich, you know, and she really was blown away of the Palestinian experience. There is no such a thing as Palestine. It's about time to retire, find a different job. You're not a journalist. You don't qualify even to be a mother.
Wow.
Yeah. So he does not mince words, Mossad. Mossad does not mince words. Here's another one where he basically he's again on Piers Morgan, and he demolishes the false narratives of genocide, occupation, victimhood, and the Nakba as well. And again, this guy, his father was one of the founders and creators of Hamas, right? So he knows exactly how these terrorists behave, and you know, what they think, and the whole sort of jihadi ideology narrative behind it, and he exposes it all. So here we go. Let's watch this one.
Disrespect these people have to go through. The fact that at one point in the West Bank, a settler can just walk into your home, waltz into your home, destroy your home, take it, and be backed by a soldier. The utter disrespect of having so much injustice. There was this one Palestinian who said, our heart breaks every day over 100 times. What on earth? How is this sustainable? This is the longest siege on any place in history.
Let me ask Mosab that very...
Of course you're going to have a 7th of October. Of course you're going to have resistance.
Yeah, actually, here's my problem. I'm going to go to Mosab now, but here's my point about that. I would say that I agree with you. A lot of the settlements, particularly expanded settlements in the last few months we've seen, are completely outrageous and indefensible and should not be happening. I completely agree with you. But when you say that, of course, October 7th is going to happen, no, absolutely not. There was nothing to justify a terror attack on that scale. Let me go to Mosab. You've been waiting patiently here. Hang on. Go to Mosab. Mosab, let me ask you about that issue of the settlements. What is your view about expanding settlements in the way that Israel's been doing? Because it seems to me that they are crossing a line when they do that, which is completely indefensible.
Of settlements, or what so-called settlements, those are cities of hundreds of thousands of people. This was the result of the 1967 war, when the Arab countries united wanted to annihilate the state of Israel. Arabs had their opportunity back in 1948 to declare their independence. They had equal opportunity like the Jewish people. The Jewish people fought the British colonialism, and they shed blood, and eventually they earned their independence. But in 1948, instead of the Arabs declaring their independence, they declared war against the Jewish people. There was no such Palestine at that time. They were just Arabs. And in the British era of colonialism, Jews, Arabs, Druze, Christians, everybody in that area was called the Palestinian. The Palestinian is a colonial entity. It was not a country, and it was not a nationality. It was just a 25-year period. So now, when we convinced ourselves that we were Palestinians because of Yasser Arafat wanted us to be Palestinians, the chaos had begun. And now, Palestinian is nothing but the victim narrative, that we don't want to take responsibility for the choices that we have made. 70 years of conflict. And how many opportunities the Palestinians, or what so-called Palestinians, it's not a real thing. There are Arab children, they have the birthright to be there, and Israel has 2 million of those. So the allegation of apartheid doesn't make sense. It's just a broken record by all those who have been trying to delegitimize Israel. It has nothing to do in reality. Then the victim narrative goes on. The 1967 borders. This was area which is the West Bank. It was under the control of Jordan. And the Gaza was under the control of Egypt. They were Egypt and Jordanian territories. It was not a Palestine. Today, Israel has peace with Egypt and with Jordan. So when the Arabs launched a war and they lost the war in 1967, Israel captured some territory. This is the consequences of war. This is and the Arabs don't want to accept the consequences of defeat. Instead of saying we were defeated.
Sorry, I just saw in the chat, Bird Dog, you asked a very good question. Let me pull that up for a moment. So Bird Dog asks, why do they allow Hamas to control them? It's because Hamas has all of the weapons and all the military, and anyone who tries to speak out against them is basically murdered and executed. I actually spoke about that a little bit earlier on in the live stream at the beginning. I also played a video from a Gazan who is speaking out about the current atrocities happening in Gaza right now by Hamas. So make sure when the live stream is over to go back and watch from the beginning, because I share a video and a little bit of an explanation on that as well. I hope that answers your question.
And Israel won. Now they played the victim card. They have been playing the victim card for 70 years. And instead of accepting what is on the table to coexist with Israel, basically Israel was willing to withdraw from the West Bank and Gaza. That offer was on the table in 2000. And Yasser Arafat rejected that because the revolution has no purpose. The revolution is only for the sake of revolution. Bunch of con artists who only want to gain money and power. This is their game. And they have been using Arab children, Arab and Jewish children.
Was assassinated after
please let me finish. Please don't interrupt me, please. I did not interrupt you. So now the situation got out of control. The false narrative of a victim became global. It's definitely a bestseller narrative, but it's not a true story. The very basis of it, the very foundation of what's so-called Palestine is not real, because in reality there is no such thing. Now, to build all these false accusations of apartheid, of genocide, of ethnic cleansing, only the Jewish people in the Middle East suffered ethnic cleansing and displacement. Only the Jewish people. The Arabs did not suffer the same consequences of the 1967 war, because Israel did not force them to leave the territory after the war, while Egypt, your country, gave the Jewish people a 24-hour notice to depart Egypt. But the Jewish people did not do the same towards the Arabs. And this is how we have 2 million Arabs in Israel.
So there's a very good explanation. And then here's another one. So he's basically talking about like Hassan Nasrallah, and he talks a little bit about Hezbollah here. And why is Hezbollah relevant? Because Hezbollah is another proxy group of the Islamic Republic, which is occupying Iran. Hezbollah is currently occupying southern Lebanon. And if you're wondering why the IDF bombed places in southern Lebanon today, it's because they are going after Hezbollah occupied territories, Hezbollah munitions, everything like that. And yeah, we're all happy. We're all happy when the IDF bombs Hezbollah, because they're all Islamic terrorists. They murder Lebanese people, they murder Jewish people, they murder Iranian people, they murder, anyone who speaks out against them. So always a good day when the IDF goes after Hezbollah terrorists. So here's a video. I think it's from about a year ago as well. Again, so Mosab Hassan Yousef breaks it all down.
I lived the conflict. I witnessed. I'm an eyewitness. I lived half of my life in what's so-called Palestinian society, and I spent the other half of my life with the Jewish community. When I speak on the authority of experience that is representing both cultures. One culture is a culture of death that has been sacrificing children
for political and financial gain. And Omar is coming here to the West, carrying the false Palestinian identity, hiding behind a couple of Western values, trying to manipulate and deceive American and Western audience by showing somebody like Hassan Nasrallah and Ayatollah and Sinwar and the rest of the proxy leaders. These people are reckless. They started the war on October 7, and Israel had the right to defend itself. And Hezbollah has been launching missiles on civilians. They just killed 12 children as the whole world is watching on a playground. And that was Druze community, which is a great part of the Lebanese community. And no one leashed Hassan Nasrallah. How many times Omar and Mustafa's and Muhammad's complained or protested against Hezbollah aggression, taking advantage of Israel bleeding in the south?
I'm sorry.
And he was totally mistaken.
Hassan
Nasrallah today, this is his punishment. Israel is legitimate when I stand for Israel. Why do I stand for Israel? Because Israel is the most legitimate ethnic group in the region, with evidence, overwhelming evidence to relationship to that land.
Yeah.
Omar and the Muslims have been trying for the past 1400 years to delegitimize and annihilate the Jewish people from that land. And they hate it so much that Israel is showing resilience and strength. You ask Omar if he's sad. Omar is mourning. Hassan Nasrallah is his hero. So let me tell Omar and his likes, listen, you cannot rewrite history. And when I speak, I don't only speak on my own authority, I speak on the authority of the universe, that Iran and all its proxies and the Muslim world behind it.
No, this is a very, very serious conversation.
Back off. There is going.
The only thing that I criticize here is when he says Iran, he actually means the Islamic Republic, right? Because that right there, that's the flag of Iran. That's the flag of Iran before 1979, when it was still a free country, when Iran was an ally of the United States and an ally of Israel and an ally of many countries in the Middle East. Right now, Iran is occupied by the Islamic Republic, the same way that southern Lebanon is occupied by Hezbollah. So when he refers here to Iran and its proxy groups like the, Hezbollah and Hamas and others, he really means the Islamic Republic, right? So these Islamic terrorists are in the process of colonizing the Middle East. Israel, thankfully, is in the process of decolonizing. But these Islamic jihadis have caused terrorism and chaos and death and mayhem across the region pretty much since the Islamic Republic took control of my country of Iran in 1979. So that's what he's referring to here when he says Iran. It's not the actual Iran, it's the Islamic Republic.
There is going to be only the language of fire. And you can sit here in the West pretending to value the Western ethics. You are a liar with a false identity and your religion.
All right.
And your entire population.
Let me get a
have
time.
no respect.
Let me call a timeout here.
So as you can see, Mosab does not mince words. Here's another short clip. This is again from his what's the word I'm looking for? When he did a show with Dr. Phil, and he calls out these two like jihadi girls, and it's incredible. Again, he does not mince words. He doesn't care about anyone's feelings. I mean, this is a man who has led a very difficult life, and he is definitely rough around the edges. But ultimately, his concern is for the innocent people in Gaza and in the West Bank who are being murdered by the terrorists controlling them, right? Like the Hamas terrorists. And he even calls out the Palestinian Authority too, right? Like he lumps them all together and says that they're all basically terrorists. So here he is. It's a very, very short clip, and then we'll go to a longer clip. Sorry, I forgot to change the screen here. Sorry, guys.
It does not end there. Now we have the problem with the pro-Palestine who are actually giving Hamas cover. They are participants in the crime. In fact, since October 7, I personally don't differentiate between Hamas and what's so-called Palestinians. Because actually there is no Palestinians. There are tribes. There is the tribe of Hamas, and there is the tribe of the Islamic Jihad, and there is the tribe of Khalil, and there is the tribe of Nablus. And each one has different interests, and all of them are conflicted. If they did not have Israel as the common enemy, they would kill each other.
That's a really important point, right? So he's saying if these various tribes didn't have Israel as the common enemy, they would go after each other. That's exactly the violence that we're seeing in Gaza today, right? Where you're seeing Hamas going after all these other people in Gaza, right? So that violence, the exact thing that he was explaining a year ago on Dr. Phil is exactly what's happening right now. And none of the pro-Palestine people are speaking out against it, right? Like they're nowhere to be found. So let's go back and pay attention to that part again, then we'll continue.
And each one has different interests, and all of them are conflicted. If they did not have Israel as the common enemy, they would kill each other. This is the reality of what's so-called Palestine. Rhetoric? You don't know what Palestine is. Actually, in fact, the keffiyeh that you are wearing, this is just a statement to show that you really lack the authenticity to represent the case. And what's so-called the cause, this is a human problem. It does not end there.
I mean, he makes a very, very good point there, right? And especially calls out. All right, so this is a bit of a longer one. So this is one of his longer interviews with Piers Morgan. This is from 2 years ago. So this is from October 27. This is before most people knew who he was. Now, what's interesting is that I actually did post about him, and this is again 2 years ago. I posted one of his interviews from about 10 years ago. Okay. And I will share that as well, because, even 10 years ago, he was speaking about this conflict. He was speaking about the conflict, and he was raising awareness about the conflict even 10 years ago. And what he said 10 years ago is incredibly relevant, because it's exactly what's been happening today in the last 2 years. So here's his interview with Piers Morgan from 2 years ago, almost to the day.
And I'm joined now by Mosab, Hassan, Yousef. Mosab, great to see you. It's an extraordinary story, yours. You were the eldest son of a man who was one of the co-founders of Hamas. And indeed, for your early formative years, you worked alongside your father. So you got a great insight into Hamas. Tell me this from the start. What were the intended plans for Hamas when it was founded, when it started, when it developed? What was the plan?
Since its establishment, Hamas has one goal in mind, which is annihilating the state of Israel. Like the best, let's say, compromise that they could do is having a truce for 15 years, a ceasefire for 15 years as maximum, but with no guarantee how they will act after. It's absurd. It's not a secret that Hamas wants to destroy the state of Israel. They cannot accept Israel or accept Israel's right to exist.
What was the point that you decided to get out of there, to flee this world, this environment you've been brought up in?
I have many reasons. Since I was a child, I asked my father many questions about Hamas delusions, about their brutality, about their abuse of power, and always he justified, their position. Then I was imprisoned with Hamas. I spent about 27 months in Israeli prisons where Hamas was torturing their own members, our own people within Israeli prisons. They killed actually and tortured hundreds of prisoners. And this is when I start asking myself the question, what if Hamas become the ruler at some point? What will they do to our people? And many years later, Hamas became the ruler of Gaza. And I wasn't surprised by their brutality.
When you heard what happened on October the 7th, what was your feeling about that?
Look, as I told you, I'm not surprised by Hamas brutality, but I was surprised by the scale of their attack. You know, not to this degree, wiping out entire communities, you know, messing with a nuclear power, the most powerful country in the region, a country with a trauma, great trauma from the past, with a memory of a Holocaust and all the Nazis did in the past century. They opened the gates of hell on the Palestinian people. This is how irresponsible this group people are. You know, that they are willing to actually sacrifice many Palestinian children, the entire Palestinian people, and use them as a fuel to just achieve their ideological agendas, their religious agendas. They are careless. They don't care for the human life. We have to separate between what's so-called Palestinian cause and Hamas cause. Hamas cause is a sick one. It's coming from the pit of hell, you know, and they need to be removed from power. This is my message.
And again, guys, so his father was one of the founders of Hamas, and he was raised within that Hamas mentality, ideology, until he was able to educate himself and then escape that jihadi indoctrination. So this coming from him is incredibly powerful, right? Like, he is exposing Hamas terrorists for exactly what they are. And this is why he is attacked by the jihadis, because he has a very powerful message, a very strong message, and they don't like the fact that he is exposing them and airing all of their jihadi dirty laundry.
As an ex-Hamas member, as a son of one of Hamas founders, that enough of this. If we don't stop them now, the next war is going to be deadlier, and only God knows what will happen next if Hamas is not finished as soon as possible.
Mosab, how many regular Palestinians, particularly in Gaza, do you think sympathize with Hamas or indeed fully support them?
You know, once Hamas is removed from power, we're going to witness people celebrating in Gaza. I guarantee you that. The people of Gaza are oppressed for so long, and they had to endure siege, they had to endure violence, many wars, for the sake of Hamas' lust for power and for Hamas' political ambition. When this comes to an end, I promise you that the Palestinian people, first of all, will thank Israel for what they did. Second, the idea of annihilating the Jews and the state of Israel will be dropped forever. You know, because Hamas is the, you can say, the last experiment of adapting violence, trying to annihilate and destroy the state of Israel. This didn't work for Yasser Arafat. It took him 40 years to realize this. And Hamas has been trying for 35 years to destroy Israel. Finally, I hope that they will come to this understanding that Israel is going nowhere. If they insist on annihilating Israel, and of course, if Iran keeps on insisting on this goal, this means the destruction of the entire region.
Again, so when he says Iran, he means the Islamic Republic occupying Iran, right? Because Iran is that flag. That's the flag of, before 1979 Islamic Republic. And Iran is currently occupied by that Islamic jihadi terrorist organization that is also working with Hamas terrorists and Hezbollah terrorists and the Houthis and all those as well. So just wanted to clarify that little pet peeve of mine. I wish people would make that distinction between Iran and the Islamic Republic the same way that people make a distinction between Lebanon and Hezbollah, right? Like Lebanese people are not Hezbollah the same way that Iranian people are not the Islamic Republic.
Region. This is the only uncertain outcome of this, because Israel is going nowhere.
How do we get to peace from here?
You know, this time, I'm afraid that war is the only way to peace. Because if Hamas is not removed from power, then they will build more military, they will build longer range missiles, and the next attack, the next war is going to be deadlier. The use of force is the last resort. You can find this in every culture. And unfortunately, now Hamas left Israel and the free world as well, with no choice but to fight them and put an end for their violence. Many civilians are dying, I understand this. Their blood is on the hands of Hamas, and Hamas only.
You see, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of pro-Palestinians who I've had on the show in the last 2 weeks don't accept that argument. They say the blood of the civilians in Gaza is exclusively on the hands of Israel, and that Israel's waged a repressive occupation for many decades. There's been a prison camp for Gazans for a long, long time, and that has created the environment through which a terror group like Hamas can thrive and indeed win an election, as they did in 2005. Do you buy into any of that? I mean, do you think that Israel has overreacted already to what happened to them? Their argument is, what is proportion when you have a terror attack like that on your people?
Look, since my childhood, and I am hearing the stories from pro-Palestine and from those who are using what's so-called the Palestinian cause. They care the least for the Palestinian children and their future. You know, I am the legitimate representative of the Palestinian children. The child within me speaks. I don't want somebody coming from London or somebody coming from the other side of the world to tell me what is the struggle of the Palestinian children. The Palestinian children, the Palestinian society has been hijacked by these criminals, and anybody who takes their side is participating in their crime. This is my answer to those people. And for the civilian casualties, etc., you know, first of all, Hamas is using, and it's very clearly, it's a fact that Hamas used civilians as human shields. It's a fact.
See, so even 2 years ago, he was saying, now they've been saying this for a very long time, that Hamas has been using civilians as human shields. Guys, even Hamas has admitted, like the Hamas leadership themselves have admitted that they use Palestinian civilians as human shields because it's part of the resistance, right? So when people like Mosab talk about this culture of death and martyrdom that has taken over, that's what they're referring to. The fact that, you know, these Islamic terrorists, they glorify death, right? So for them, it's natural for them to use women and children as human shields. And we all know it. We've all seen it. Those of us who are from the Middle East and have experience with Islamic terrorists, we know this for a fact, which is something that they try to hide quite extensively. So let me go back and repeat that, because that is critical to what he's saying here. And that is critical to the strategy of Islamic terrorists and how they operate in the Middle East, and also how they manipulate, right? So they will purposely endanger men, women, and children, purposely put them in the line of fire, use them as human shields, and then they will broadcast all of those deaths and murders and use it to their advantage. And that's basically how Hamas has been winning the propaganda war, because they don't care about human lives and they don't protect human lives. And the videos are out there. They've admitted it themselves.
Palestinian society has been hijacked by these criminals, and anybody who takes their side is participating in their crime. This is my answer to those people. And for the civilian casualties, etc., First of all, Hamas is using, and it's very clearly, it's a fact that Hamas used civilians as human shields. It's a fact. Then it's a fact that Israel called and warned civilians to evacuate buildings before they strike them. But in the meantime, Hamas put roadblocks to stop civilians from evacuating to safe zones. Hamas single misfire killed hundreds of refugees taking shelter at a hospital, and they blamed Israel.
That's a very important fact. So a lot of the missiles that Hamas uses are like, homemade, right? And I think the numbers have shown that between 25 to 50% of them backfire and misfire, and they actually murder Palestinians, right? Because they instead of going to Israel, they fall in Gaza. And that's exactly what happened with the hospital. So when Hamas was, launching missiles at Israel, one of those missiles backfired and landed in a hospital in Gaza. And then Hamas decided to take advantage of that situation and blame it on Israel. And then, of course, after the fact, it came out that, no, the IDF had nothing to do with that. It was, in fact, Hamas. But by that point, the propaganda was already out there. And so this is how these people are able to manipulate the facts and use it to their advantage.
What are we talking about here? Israel is a democracy. Israel is accountable. Israel is not thirsty for the Palestinian blood. In the meantime, Israel is capable of wiping out Arab capitals in seconds. Why Israel does not attempt to abuse its power? But why, when the Arabs have just a little bit of power, couple of missiles, they misuse power by launching them at civilians and kill them in their living rooms? We have a fundamental problem, and we need to stop blaming Israel. We invited this upon our heads, and the rest of the world, if they don't know the reality on the ground, it's better that they shut up.
Mosab, your passion and your anger is very palpable here, and certainly very different to most of the pro-Palestinian voices I've had. And I sense the Palestinian plight of its people is very much in your heart.
See, so this is the first time that Piers Morgan interviewed Mosab, right? And so for him to say, you're very different from the other pro-Palestine, because Mosab is actually pro-Palestine, right? Like, he's pro the people, he's pro the children, he's exposing the Islamic terrorists who have been keeping his people hostage, which is very, very different than the narrative of the jihadis who are out there supporting the Islamic terrorists, right? So it's a very different narrative, and this is the truth. I mean, this is the nuanced truth that the jihadis don't want you to know about, because it's so easy to just say, oh, good guy versus bad guy, or whatever, but it takes a little bit more critical thinking to really dig into the facts and understand what's going on. And the biggest challenge here, I find, for people who are not from the Middle East is they try to contextualize Middle Eastern politics within a Western society construct or framework, and you cannot, right? I mean, when you look at Western society politics, for example, you operate from a starting point that all actors are typically rational beings, and all actors essentially, don't want war, they want peace, and they want to just, cooperate and thrive, right? Whereas when you look at Middle Eastern political society, you have to just accept the fact that there are certain groups and there are certain ideologies that are not rational. These people do not want peace. These people want to rape, murder, and pillage. And if you don't recognize that, you're going to have a very bad time trying to understand what's going on in the Middle East. Because if you think everyone in the Middle East is friends and whatever, you're going to have a very bad time, right? And again, there's a reason why Islamic terrorists cause a lot of problems in the Middle East, because they are not rational actors. They are coming from a place of wanting to rape, pillage, and murder. right? And that also ties into what's happening in Nigeria, which I'm going to talk about on my next live stream. So make sure that you follow, like, and subscribe, especially on YouTube, because my next live stream will be about the Christian genocide in Nigeria. And we're going to talk about why the heck are Nigerian Muslims murdering Nigerian Christians, and why is no one speaking out about that? But, you know, we're going to go back to this.
Do you still have contact with any of your family?
This is irrelevant right now. I don't have any contact with my family, and I don't care anymore. You know, enough bloodshed and enough involvement from people who don't care. They just warriors on keyboard, you know, and they're just storming world capitals saying free Palestine, free Palestine. They don't know what the hell Palestine is. I am Palestine. And I say it's enough of Hamas. It's enough of the corrupt leaderships that they are killing our people, misleading them to hell. Is enough of that. We don't want Palestinian state. I don't want Palestinian state. Palestinian children need education. They need security. They need life. This is what they need. They don't need another corrupt Arab regime.
Is it possible to get rid of Hamas in the way that Israel is currently trying to do through airstrike bombardments, and it is planned now an imminent ground invasion? Is that the best way to do it? Or is there a danger of radicalizing a lot more young Palestinians to the Hamas cause in the process?
Listen to this. We are going to remove Hamas from power. Remember my words, okay? And Hamas did not only bring the wrath of Israel over Gaza. Hamas brought the wrath of God. We are going to remove them from power, and we are going to persecute their leaders, and we are going to bring them to justice, and the world will witness their punishment. And everyone who take their side today in this state of confusion, thinking that this is a joke, I tell those people that you are going to regret taking the side of Hamas. You are going to regret taking the side of those criminals who are killing the Palestinian people.
Mosab, you were born in Ramallah. That's your home. Do you dream of going home one day? Is that something you still aspire to do?
I prefer not to answer this question.
I understand. Mosab, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
I wonder why he said he prefers not to answer that question. I mean, I guess it's a personal thing, right? And a lot of people don't like speaking about they don't like speaking about their personal experiences, which is fine. But here's what I wanted to play. So this is actually this is Mosab back in 2016. Okay, so back in 2016, he was already speaking about this, and he was warned. So this is like 9 years ago, right? 9 years ago, he was trying to raise awareness about all of this, you know, jihad and this never-ending war, and how Hamas is using Palestinians to basically line their own pockets and get rich. And he exposes all of this. So I'm gonna play something really quick for you guys. It's a couple of short clips from a longer interview. And I'll probably play that interview for you guys, you know, another time, or if there's interest, I can maybe do it later. But I literally posted this on October 25, right? So this is before anyone even really knew about him. This is before he even had an X account, right? He was already speaking out about this stuff. So let me just play this.
Palestinians or the victims.
This interview here was from 5 years ago. So 2023 minus 5. So this was from 2018-ish, right? 2018, he was speaking about the Israel-Gaza cycle of violence, right? So well before October 7 happened. So guys, the truth about Islamic terrorism and the truth about this, you know, cycle of violence in the Middle East, it has always been out there. It's just no one has really bothered to dig in and look into it, right? So here we go.
Palestinians or the victims of this conflict thought that Israel was their problem. And I was part of this delusion, that Israel was the cause for our misery and suffering. And I'm very familiar with their minds, ambition, mistakes, how they misled the Palestinian people, guide them from a disaster to a greater disaster throughout the conflict. There are facts. You cannot deny them. Of course, people in their political delusion, they can deny things, and they can accuse Israel and they can praise the predator, The people can say whatever they want to say. I speak with the authority of my experience and first-hand observation of the reality, knowing Hamas leadership, knowing Palestinian Authority leadership, and knowing that they are the enemies of the Palestinian people. Palestinian leaderships want Palestinian people to die, and that's a reality. It has been like this for so many years. There is no need for them if people don't die.
See, so what he's saying is that part of the legitimacy of Hamas comes from creating this never-ending conflict and putting innocent people in the way, and basically creating the conditions for innocent people to be murdered so that they can then, cry genocide and then get, international funding, and then they line their pockets, and then there's like a period of like ceasefire, and then the cycle of violence starts all over again. And again, guys, this was him speaking in 2018. So this was 5 years before October 7. He was already exposing the ideology of Hamas terrorists, and he was exposing how they have operated, right? It is a well-established pattern that those of us who are from the Middle East know very well.
And every now and then they start a war. Palestinian leaderships sent children, instead of going to schools, they forced them to go and confront with the IDF with the name of nationalism. By doing this, we're going to emancipate ourselves from what's so-called occupation. Now, the question is, does any Palestinian leader really want the Palestinian conflict to end? If the conflict ends, they don't profit anymore. There is no need for them anymore. This is why they ask for impossible things. There's no solution. There is no satisfaction. Nobody can satisfy them. And they know this truth. But by sending people to die, the world has to pay them off. This is the fuel for their endless cycle of violence.
Right. So he's talking about the Palestinian grift, right? He's talking about how this cycle of violence is basically there to fund Hamas leadership and to fund that Islamic terrorism.
All the funds that come to Hamas in Gaza, they're invested in building tunnels, military wing, rather than bringing milk to the children.
Okay, so that's part one. Let me go and
This is how I observe it. I don't know how intelligence services see it. I don't know how the donors in the European Union see it. And I don't care how they see it. For me, I see Mahmoud Abbas cutting electricity from the Gaza Strip, cutting milk, medicine. What I see, Mahmoud Abbas wants Hamas to attack Israel. So Israel will attack Hamas. As outcome, children will die. So this is the Palestinian leadership mentality. When they don't have money, when the United States cut funds or reduce the funds from Mahmoud Abbas, he would say, sacrifice a few hundred children in Gaza Strip so the world can outrage against Israel. They will blame Hamas. Well, Hamas is a terrorist organization. They will blame Hamas and they will blame Israel. And Mahmoud Abbas will raise billions of dollars out of this suffering. How he is going to spend it, I don't know. Gaza does not have electricity, does not have medicine. People are dying. Children are dying in hospitals because they don't have electricity in the hospital. They don't have medication. The average person, who don't know all dimensions of this conflict, will look at Gazan children dying, and it's going to be just the exchange of a blame.
You know, they just want anybody to blame. Israel is going to be the party to blame. Even though Israel will open its hospitals, even though Israel will ask civilians to evacuate, to get out from certain areas so they can come and deal with the tunnel problems.
See, so he's already, 5 years ago, he's talking about the tactics that the IDF uses to minimize civilian casualties in Gaza whenever Hamas starts a conflict with Israel, right? So he's already speaking about all these tactics 5 years ago. The same tactics, by the way, that right now the Islamists and the jihadis are trying to hide, right? So they don't want you to know all of this. They lie about all of this, but these are things that people, especially Mosab, who is from the area, who lived it, who experienced it, he has been speaking about this for a very long time, right? Like, again, this is an interview from 7 years ago. This is from, 5 years before October 7, 2023. He's already explaining how the conflict works, because it's this never-ending cycle of violence started by the Islamic terrorists.
And Hamas will out from certain areas so they can come and deal with the tunnel problems. And Hamas will force civilians to stay. And in their ignorance, they will stay. There will be civilian casualties. Instead of blaming Israel, you need to blame the party that used civilians as human shields. Mahmoud Abbas considered, the moderate Palestinian leader. His partner. He's a criminal. But of course, he knows how to get away with it. He knows how to manipulate the international public.
Okay, so there's like a clip. You know what? That is, those are like edited clips from a much longer interview. I'm not going to have time to play that because I'm already at almost the 2-hour mark here. But there's another interview that I want to share with you. This is from 2016. So this is, now we're getting into a little bit of, ancient history here. So this is his interview from 9 years ago, okay, almost 10 years ago, where he is speaking about Hamas. He is exposing the jihadi narrative, and he is essentially warning the West about how these Islamic terrorists operate. So here we go. It's about 21 minutes long. I shared this on my X feed a couple years ago. Didn't get a lot of attention, but this is so important. So again, even 9 years ago, Mosab, Hassan, Yousef was explaining and talking about the cause behind this never-ending cycle of violence in the Middle East. No, I haven't shown Mosab addressing the UN for UN Watch. If I have time, I'll get to that. But this is similar. It's a bit longer, and I do want to share this with everyone.
Presents exclusive television coverage of the 2016 Jerusalem Post Conference from the Marriott Marquis Hotel in New York City.
So here, Mosab is basically explaining to Jewish people and everyone else who's at the conference the mentality and ideology of Hamas. Like, he's literally exposing the Hamas ideology to these people, or exposing the to everyone who's watching.
But Allah had.
Here we go. Let me go back.
This is my chance to be a hero for the sake of the nation. But Allah had other plans for me. The right to make the other side feel our pain.
An art, a very difficult art. You need to make him betray his own people.
He asked me, would you work for us? To collaborate with Israel is the most shameful thing.
The first day handling him was the first day of the end of my career. We called him the Green Prince.
My father was the top Hamas leader in the West Bank. He had no clue what I was doing.
It's like recruiting the son of the Israeli prime minister.
Deep in my heart, I was really terrified. You're a target, and you can get killed anytime. I was on my own.
He was in a real trouble.
I start to realize that people are dying because of this lie.
This is a big game.
No one else knows about you. You will start to lose your sense of reality.
He's not just a source. He was there for us all the time.
That kind of bond is impossible to break.
Haida immediately issued a death sentence for him.
Go underground, don't come back, ever. I am not who you think I am.
Our next speaker is a man whom everyone in this room, I think, owes a great debt of gratitude. While he started his life, possibly, on the road to terrorism, death, and destruction, he chose life. He sought the truth. And when he discovered it, he risked his life for 10 years to protect and save countless of Israelis. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be able to introduce you today to Mosab Hassan Yousef, better known by Israel's security services as the Green Prince.
I can't get over how young he looks here. Like this is I mean, this is from 10 years ago, right? But there you go. So again, like he was literally exposing Islamic terrorism, and he was exposing that Hamas jihadi ideology for a very long time. And again, this is almost 10 years ago.
Thank you very much. Wow, great energy. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great privilege. The Jerusalem Post annual conference. The first time I got to know about the newspaper was in prison about 20 years ago. First, I wanted to learn English. And this is why I started to read the Jerusalem Post. But eventually, it became my window towards the Jewish world and towards the Western world as well. 16 months in Israeli prison, reading almost every day. So I have some connection to the Jerusalem Post somehow. I don't know where to start, but you can use your imagination of the son of a top Hamas leader, and what in the world is he doing at the Jerusalem Post annual conference? They gave me a tag. I don't wear it right now, but they had on it the son of Hamas. And I went through security all the way to the backstage. You gotta trust them, guys. Two guys working on the top of a very high building. One Jewish and the other guy is an Arab. The Jewish guy opened his lunch and there was a shawarma. And he said, "Enough shawarma. If tomorrow my sandwich is gonna be shawarma, I will jump and kill myself." The Palestinian guy or the Arab guy opened and was falafel. And he said, "No more falafel. If tomorrow falafel, I'll jump, kill myself. That's it." Next day, the Jewish guy opened this sandwich and it was shawarma. He threw it on the side, came very fast, jumped, killed himself. The Palestinian opened and it was falafel, and he was very furious. And he said, "I said, enough falafel." He threw it, he jumped, killed himself. At their funerals, the Jewish wife was crying very hard, saying, "I don't know what's his problem. If he told me, I would have changed it to something else." The Arab wife was crying bitterly and saying, "I don't know what's his problem. I don't know what's his problem. He makes his own sandwiches. Okay, back to the story. It's very hard, to encapsulate a human journey, a human evolution in any form of language. Rather than English is not my mother tongue, but I try as much as I can. Truth at those heights cannot be conveyed in any form, actually. Not a movie, not a book, not a speech. We cannot reduce ourselves to words that cannot defend themselves. And somebody is going to take this speech, take it out of the context, and serve maybe some Palestinian agenda, eventually. This is how it works. People don't see things for what they are. But I'm sure that some of you, at least, will understand where I'm coming from. At some point, I was paid by the Israeli government, by the US government, by the Palestinian Authority, and by Hamas organization. I was working for all those guys at the same time. So today, if I speak with the authority of experience. It's not from the books. It's not a second-hand knowledge that I got from somebody. I don't represent government or politicians. I represent myself. I am an individual. I am not an organization. And I don't like to take sides, because I don't belong to nations. I don't belong to the crowd. I have transcended this long time ago. But the Jewish nation is dear to me. And when I see nations unifying against the Jewish people, it hurts me. Because at some point, I thought the Jewish people were the enemies of humanity. I thought that they were the enemies of our people, the Palestinian people, until I came to experience what the Jewish nation really is. Through intelligence service, through witnessing the true democratic model in an ocean of darkness, the only light in the Middle East. And I wonder, people here in the free world who think that they are free, unifying against Israel, attacking Israel, isolating Israel, boycotting Israel, BDS and all this hypocrisy. Of course, hypocrisy coming together with political correctness, because it's the same. Two faces for the same coin. In the Muslim society, I witnessed a woman who sent 5 of her children to die in suicide bombing attacks, one after another. She would put this explosive belt on them and bless them and say, "Go kill the Jews," to gain respect in her society. This is hypocrisy. My father disowned me because he's a hypocrite. On a personal level, he's a loving father. But when he puts the Hamas mask that he cannot exist without, he's a monster, he's something else. And this is the problem with that society conditioning. That if you take individuals on the side, they're just human beings like us. Any of us could have or have been brought in that environment, would be conditioned in the same way. The human condition does not differentiate between an Arab or a Jewish person. But the collective mind of the society is representing something. Is representing an ideology, a culture, a state of consciousness that calibrates in darkness, that calibrates in the 7th and 6th centuries, ruled by tribal lust for power. It have not changed, or it has not changed. Muhammad, and I know that I've been told by people here not to say this, so it does not look like the Jews are going against the Muslims, but we cannot fool ourselves. There is an Islamic problem. Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, ISIS, Boko Haram, all of them are killing by the name of Allah. They're not killing by the name of Jesus. They're not killing by the name of Jehovah. They're not killing by the name of Mahavira or the Buddha or Lao Tzu. They're killing by the name of Allah. There is an Islamic problem, and I think humanity needs to stand against this danger, because this danger is not only against the state of Israel. This danger, thank you. This danger is against the evolvement of mankind. Political correctness. I don't know if there is any CNN reporters or representatives here tonight. You know, political correctness, when my friend invited me to his wedding and he asked me to wear a tuxedo, and I thought it was a Speedo for a second. There is a big difference, right? That would have been politically incorrect. But when it comes to matters, universal issues, when we see waves of violence and darkness taking over and spreading, and we choose to stick our head in the sand with the name of political correctness, the truth is that we are afraid. And we are trying not to provoke them more. We are trying not to create a religious war. But there has been a religious war, whether you like it or not. The better way is to face it, to grow up, and face it with courage. This is what I say. The problem is not in the individual. We are not against the Muslim people. I cannot be against my mother and my father and my people. They're just people. And there are idiots everywhere in every nation. But I'm talking about the collective consciousness of nations, of regions, and the cosmic consciousness of all humanity. The Muslim people have a problem, and their problem is in their belief system. They have to face it, and we need to encourage them to fight the good fight, as I did. If I was able, you know, I had privileges as the son of a top Hamas leader. I had something to lose. But the average Muslim person don't have lots of things to lose. They're already living in darkness and misery. If they leave it, it's better for them. When I left, I did not leave misery. I left privilege. I left position. I was paid. I was protected. Everybody wanted me to stay wearing the mask. I am a living example and a challenge, and I will continue to be, to every individual who lives in the Muslim world, that this is the time to grow up, to destroy the walls, and to transcend the conditioning of the society. This is the only way. But to tell them, no, Islam is a religion of peace, we just create the perfect climate for terrorists to keep on growing. I say otherwise. Our problem is not with the individual, our problem is with the belief system. That humanity and the free world need to unify, as eventually, even though it was too late, the world unified against Nazism. Today, free people need to unify against Islam, not against the Muslim people, against Islam itself as a belief system. When the president of the free world stands and say, that Islam is a religion of peace, He creates the climate. He provides the climate, the perfect climate to create more terrorism. I hope that my message does not come across. I don't want to create more chaos, but there is no other way. You know, I wish I could be more gentle to represent this issue. But I've seen death, and I came from hell, and it's very dark. What is the alternative for Israel and for democracy, or for the American Constitution? It's the darkness of the 6th century. This is what's the alternative. You know, I don't believe that there is any system, including the American Constitution, that can solve the human condition or help the individual to integrate to a higher state. I believe this is up to the individual. But the difference between the 7th century environment and democracy, that the individual has more room and more peace or peaceful environment to grow. I experienced it myself. When I was in Ramallah, I was only able to practice Islam. I only knew the mosque. But in Tel Aviv, I practiced Christianity. When I was a Muslim also, I practiced Islam in Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, where the Jewish people are not allowed to worship at their Temple Mount. Then bunch of hypocrites called BDS come and compare Israel to the racist regime of South Africa. How can you compare? If it's the capital of the...
So again, like, this speech is from almost 10 years ago. So even back then, he was calling out and exposing, you know, the fake Palestinian cause or whatever, where they were like, you know, BDS and apartheid and genocide, like all that nonsense, right? Like, it's nothing new. It's been going on for a very long time. And, you know, he was calling it out for decades. So again, like, this is from 9 years ago, but this could easily be a speech that he could have said it yesterday, and it would still be just as relevant and just as important.
Jewish people and the Israeli government are not allowing the Jewish people to worship freely in their capital, on their holiest site, for political correctness, not to offend the Muslims and give them that kind of freedom. How can we compare this to that? In Tel Aviv, I was able to practice yoga. I was able to practice Christianity. They're Muslims, they're Druze, they're all type of people, all type of religions, protected under the Israeli umbrella and the Israeli law. This is not available in the other countries surrounding. If Israel is destroyed, or if Israel is isolated, what is the alternative? What those people are doing, I really don't understand. I know that I came across pro-Israeli this afternoon, but it has been a privilege. Why not? I love Israel. I love what Israel stands for, its ethics, its values, its democracy, its love. A nation that was able to overcome the Holocaust, and instead of playing the victim mentality and blame everyone for their suffering, they were able to build a state, a democratic state, make it from a newborn state to an advanced and completely developed state in less than 25 years. This is a great example. It has been a pleasure. I appreciate the love of the Jewish nation everywhere in the world. I don't care what they label me. Again, I speak with the authority of experience. If they have anything to say, they can say it right to my face. If they have the courage, but I doubt. I would like to conclude with another joke, if you don't mind.
Oh God. I think we'll leave the joke there. I don't know what he's going to say, and he's a little bit rough around the edges. But there you go. So I hope that for those of you who've been with me from the beginning, for about the last 2 hours or so, that gives you a good understanding of why there is this never-ending conflict in the region, and why Hamas terrorists are murdering innocent people in Gaza. And if you didn't catch the beginning, definitely go back, watch the live stream from the beginning, because I do go over some other videos and, of course, some horrific footage of the current violence in the region. And I guess we're all sort of waiting to see what happens with President Trump, because President Trump did say that if Hamas does not stop killing Gazans, then they are going to go in and kill Hamas. And again, he said, "Thank you for your attention to this matter," which lets you know he's very serious. And something that I usually find is when he says something like that, it usually means like there's already something happening behind the scenes. There's already a project in the works. So keep an eye on the news. Keep an eye on my X feed as well. If you don't follow me on X, make sure you do so. And for those of you who don't follow me on YouTube, make sure to follow me there. And if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, because I go live Monday to Fridays at noon to talk about the pressing issues relating to the Middle East, and of course the rest of the world as it relates to the Middle East, and of course Islamic terrorism and jihad. And sometimes I go live at different times if there's an emergency or something like that. So make sure, if you enjoy my live streams, to not just like and subscribe, but to turn on your notifications as well. All right, thank you everyone for joining. I appreciate it, and until next time, Payande Iran Javid Show.